Growing up, this was the Turtles game to have. It was a Turtles game that actually looked like the cartoon, and to a small kid, that was all that mattered. You had the bright cartoony animation of the TV show, enemies from the TV show, bosses from the TV show, and even the comedy from the TV show. This game was marketed specifically to fans of the show, and it paid off because everyone I knew growing up loved this game. However, while this game is held in such high regard by Turtles fans, is this game actually as good as everyone remembers it? Today, let's dive into Turtles 2, the arcade game. But before we get too far into that, welcome to the Ogles channel. Thank you so much for watching today. If you haven't clicked the subscribe button down below, be sure and do that now for your latest in gaming news, reviews, content, and here lately, news on the old Turtles games. We're going through all the old retro Turtle games to see how they live up to our current memory of them. If you haven't watched the one on the first NES game, be sure and click that above right here. But let's get back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, to see if it lives up to how fantastic it is in our memories. The first thing you'll instantly notice when you load this game up are the striking graphics and the soundtrack. The music is a perfect 8-bit rendition of the TMNT theme and begins to create a very familiar atmosphere of the television cartoon. Then come into graphics, and they are some of the best on the NES. I know some people hate on the graphics in this game because they're not as good as the arcade version, which is obviously true, but considering this is on the NES, they are quite impressive with things like the fire overlay, the detailed sprites, and everything being in 2.5D. The Turtles have the same cartoony look of the TV show, as well as all the enemies and the bosses. Not to mention, the animated cutscenes between the levels, for their time, this was as close to animation as you were going to get on the NES. Their goal in creating this game was to make you feel like you were playing in a TV show, and straight out the gates, it is succeeding well and beyond in that aspect. As you're playing through these levels, you also get to choose which turtle you want to use. Each turtle has a slightly different ability, like Michelangelo and Raphael, they attack the fastest, Donatello has the longest range, and Leonardo is just an overall well-rounded character. However, no one actually chooses based upon any of that. You always just pick the one that you like the most from the television show. The game creators want you to feel like you're in the show, and giving you the freedom to play as your favorite turtle allows you to be that much more immersed in the experience. Then comes the core game itself to continue that feeling. All the enemies such as the Foot Soldiers, Baxter Stockman, Mousers, Krang, Shredder, General Trag, Rocksteady, Bebop, and even Rodkill Rodney are here. They made 100% sure that players of this game were going to be constantly recognizing enemies from the show, which would then create a sense of anticipation on which enemy from the show was going to appear next. This was especially done with the bosses of each level. The sprites were all large, and when a boss appeared, you knew exactly who it was. And it was the familiarity of these bosses that was the draw to play the game and to try to advance further and further. But this striving to create a game that allowed players to feel like they were part of the show is also where the game begins to falter a bit. It seems like all the emphasis of this game was put on this one concept, and if the game was judged on game design or gameplay alone, I feel like it'd probably be a mostly forgotten NES game. But let's look at some of the aspects where this game doesn't quite live up to the fondness that most players have for it. The gameplay of this game is about as basic as you can get for an NES game. You have the option to attack your enemy with a standard or a slash move attack, and you can also do a kick jump. While many NES games are limited on attacks like this, most other NES games have much more to offer when it comes to platforming elements to make the game much more varied in how you actually play the game. The best games of this era always had secrets to discover, areas to explore, and provided players with a sense of adventure. This game is a very on-rails game that limits not only any exploration or freedom, but also limits the attacks that you can do in this limited environment. This game gets very repetitive very fast. Yes, I know beat-em-ups in general can sometimes fall into the monotony trap. However, the best beat-em-ups in this genre offer much more variety in how you can actually fight in the game, such as special moves or power-up bars or more unique character ability. Even the future Turtles games offer all of these things. This particular Turtles game though, you're very limited on any variety of attacks or ways to mix the gameplay up. Now the gameplay doesn't glitch out or have any major errors or anything like that, it's just very stagnant. If you aren't playing this Turtles game for the imagery, most players will find themselves bored well before the end of this game. The creators also made this game, in my opinion, significantly harder than the average beat-em-up game at the time. When I was a kid playing this game, I never got beyond 3 or 4 levels without having a complete game over. Even as an adult, I had to use cheat codes and still didn't beat the game all the way through the first time. Even Shredder at the end can literally kill you in one shot, and all that you've worked for up to that point is lost so quickly. I think when they ported this over from the arcade, they left the difficulty the exact same and forgot that the kids at home couldn't just bring an endless supply of quarters to deposit into the machine. I also think they kept the difficulty high because they knew that the main draw of this game was discovering which cartoon boss was at the close of the level, and allowing players to advance too fast or too quickly would easily diminish the reasons to want to return and play this game. The lower enemy variety in this game is also fairly lacking as well. Yes, I know it has all the core enemies of the show as the bosses, but truth be told, the vast majority of this game is just one single enemy, the foot soldier. Yes, they vary slightly throughout the game, like being purple, blue, white, yellow, and so on with different attacks, but they're all still a foot soldier. There are a few other non-canon enemies which are some of the more interesting ones throughout the game, like the robotic snowmen or the mystical tigers, and they had a welcome change of pace, but nearly the entire game you just fight the same enemy on every single screen. I feel that a few new enemy surprises here and there would have really helped to break up the monotony of the foot soldier battles while tracking your way to the bosses of the level. Also, to help break up the long journeys to the bosses, a few mini bosses along the way would have really expanded the play variety. I feel like they found a pattern for this game and just sort of stuck with it, which was always long level, full of foot soldiers, then a boss, then repeat. Overall, I do not hate this game. I just don't think it's the amazing Turtles game that many of us players remember it being. I think players remember it so fondly because of the way the game made them feel. The game captured the spirit of the Turtles with the music, the graphics, the enemy bosses, and even just becoming a Ninja Turtle in general. When most kids played this game, their whole mindset was just to experience the Ninja Turtles world firsthand, and this game did it for them. They kept coming back to try to get further and further to see what other aspect of the TMNT universe they would find next. Truth be told, I even find myself enjoying this game when I load it up, but it's only because this is a Ninja Turtles game. The TMNT game series would improve upon itself as the years progress, and perhaps it took one trial of this beat-em-up genre to figure everything out. Regardless, this game will still go down as one of the NES greats, if for nothing else, for the fact that it made you feel like you were in the Ninja Turtles universe. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure and like and subscribe to the channel, and as always, go out there, find the great game to play, just simply have a great rest of the day.
You incompetent duckling cretin! Help! My ganglion is stuck in some chewing gum!